So let's understand reframing. I need you to understand this because this goes very closely with perceptual positions or any sort of coaching that you do. Okay. Uh, just give me some time and then we'll get back to the discussions. Okay. So it is not the things in themselves that worry us, but rather our interpretation of the meaning of these events that determines our action. What do you take from this?
So again, this thing, we are trying to interpret things in our way.
Yeah. So when you say certain things, what does that mean for you is basically your interpretation of that. It may not be the reality. Now I want to ask you this. So you hear a statement. I just give you a statement, and then she walked out of the door. Okay. What are the possible contexts to this statement? So let me tell you. So the possible context should be, one is maybe she decided to move out of her parents' house and found a home of her own, or she has had a loud discussion with her husband and is very upset, or she's a doctor who walks out on a patient. The person decides to go shopping for new clothes. There could be so many underlying issues that we don't know. But when you hear this and she walked out the door, what is the thing? Exactly what you're saying, doctor. Immediately there is a judgment. Oh, she walked out the door. Oh, that must be, she must have got angry and walked out. So we have given the judgment already in our mind.
Yes, I got it.
Okay. So exact things that what we are doing. That's why I wanted to get into this, so it will clarify all the doubts. Next one. I was asked to leave the organization. Could be he has been asked to leave the organization because his performance is not good. Maybe because it was his department is down. Maybe he had actually wanted to leave the organization, but the organization would not let him. And now they are saying, okay, finally we are asking him to go. There could be so many contexts behind that. Okay, so there are always possibilities. Now these are contexts which you don't have an insight into when you listen to this. Okay, so maybe you need to ask further questions to find out. And once you find out that, what would you want to do? You're trying to help the person. So you want to change the context. Now let us look at this. Unfortunately, I did not get admission to this college. Now, if you have to reframe this in a positive context, how would you do that? That's correct. Okay, so it will be like, not getting admission here probably means that you have opportunities to apply elsewhere. The pandemic has been a curse and my business is not growing. How could I change this? So it could be something like, the pandemic has given you an opportunity to think of exploring other businesses as well. Or you can even, if you want to put a more force in this, you can say the pandemic, in fact, I would simply say, if supposing, let's say one of you comes and says the pandemic has been a curse and my business is not growing, I would say, in fact, the pandemic has now given you a wonderful opportunity to think of exploring other businesses. And what do you think they could be? So it's like call to action. I'm putting you into action of thinking. Okay, so basically it's the ability to change perspectives, okay, and looking and basically bring about some flexibility in the same thing. And as far as possible, try to use the same context and change. Don't just change the topic. Try to use the same context, some of the words that you use, so they connect more faster. Like for instance, we use the word admissions, use the word admissions if possible. Okay, so usually you'll have this problem. I mean, this I already mentioned to you. So ask questions like, is there any other way to look at this situation? Can we look at this situation differently? Okay, how differently could this work for you that will work something? Or what are some of the other possible reasons that could possibly happen? Not could have happened, could possibly happen. There's a typo here. So the first thing is use the change of point of view. The second thing is validate emotions. This is very, very important. Okay, I know you are nervous that she hasn't called back. I know when I feel nervous, I always imagine the worst case scenario. Now you are giving an example so that the person relates to you. Now this could be, now emotions, when we talk about it, the admission thing is also part of this. It is coming as part of this. See, when the person says, I lost that admission, or I did not get admission in that, there is a certain emotion in the person's body and mind, which is also coming out. So by connecting in admissions, you're connecting the emotional aspect of it as well. Okay. And finally, show compassion. Okay. So what would you say to a friend who had this problem? So one way of doing it is putting the person in the second position or a third position of perceptual position. Okay, so you can say that supposing you were to, so the person is in that big problem zone and you've given him some openings. Okay, and they say, okay, think if you were that other person, what would you be advising yourself? That's a third way of doing it. You're basically using perceptual positions, but it is kind of a mental perceptual positions you're using, and a quick fix solution to these things. Okay, so these can be used in family therapies. Okay, so here's another example. A mother is overly involved in her life. So Carla complains bitterly that her mother is overly involved in her life, constantly nagging about her what she should be doing. And the therapist says, isn't it loving of your mother to teach you ways of to take care of yourself so you'll be prepared to live on your own? So in family therapy, you can use this. Often there are conflicts within the family. Just now, we were talking about father and child, and not child, but father and son, father and daughter. It could be with in-laws. It could be with a spouse. So it comes very handy in family therapy. You can use it yourself. If it's happening on you, you can use the reframing on somebody else for that person to look at things in your perspective. So in Venu's case, she could probably use the reframing technique along with, now she done perceptual position. Now top it up with reframing to let the other person see your perspective wherever possible. Look at those openings there. Individual therapy, we spoke about it. So a man is upset that he wasn't chosen for a promotion. So therapist asked what positive things could come out from not being promoted. And the man said that the new job came with some unwanted additional stresses and that he might not be able to work around. Now, I want to tell you, I want to give you a perspective. So this is all there is. Okay. I don't think we have anything else. Yeah. So these are some common things, all or nothing thinking. So basically, people usually think through situation in absolute terms, that it is happening like this, nothing else can change. Either you'll get certain people with this kind of a thinking, or you'll get people with blaming things, always blaming, attributing complex problems to a single cause. May happen usually to a relationship kind of a issue, or it could be related to a situation the person is in and say that I've got this thing, I always get into this situation and all that. Catastrophizing, okay, which means always imagining the worst things can happen in a situation. This is what I'm talking about, a problem statement. When you're in the problem zone, you'll only think that, oh, pandemic means next 2 years I won't be able to do this, I can't go out of the home, I have to put that mask on, I hate Zoom now because it is becoming like a big white elephant for me, I can't really look at it. I'm telling you this from actual statements that people have told me, as my clients have told me. These are actual situations. So these are the kind of things that you keep imagining. They're all your stories that you're wonderfully built into your head. Discounting the positives. Okay, so in the process of seeing the problem, you have discounted completely the solution part of it because you're convinced yourself there is no solution to this, and that's why they're in that state. And using all the mental filters are basically you're focusing only on the negatives and never on the positives. These are the typical things that you will find people completely stuck up with. Now this is where you need to look at them. You can use a combination of perceptual positions and reframing. Maybe only perceptual position, maybe only reframing, maybe a combination of both of them. Okay, now one very beautiful thing here is that usually they will use the word these things, don't. When you coach, never use the word don't, because your mind does not process don't. Okay, so don't think of a pink elephant, and the first thing it does is it looks at what is put after the word don't. It doesn't realize what the don't is. Don't go near that hole means you'll find kids going through that hole. So if you want to put it in a positive, say you say, go, I want you people to play over there, and that there should be in the opposite direction of the hole. Or rather than we keep telling our children, don't do this, don't do that, don't, it actually doesn't work, because don't is not process. Rather than that, tell the child what you want them to do, rather than focusing on what you don't want them to do. Okay, again, no, never, all these things, avoid using these things, because your mind doesn't process this in the way you think it is processing. Then I'm exhausted. Put it the other way, I need to rest. Unfortunately, it'll be impossible for him to finish the project and all that thing. Can everyone turn in their portion of the project by Thursday so that he can, so put it in a positive context when you're talking to a client in reframing thing. So, and sometimes you'll find these kind of words coming out from the client and you might want to use them. So constructive criticism, rather than criticizing, give them a feedback. Rather than saying, I don't agree with you, say that probably doing this might work out better for you. Very soft way of telling them, very soft way. And they will open up their conscious mind at that point in time, because you're not imposing it on them. It's more like inclusive, you're taking them along with you. And I forgot, I'm sure I'll make sure to remind.